If you have ever worried about presenting a webinar, then you are not alone, because the possibility of a deafening silence in the comments when you ask a question is enough to discourage people from even considering running a webinar. But I am here to tell you, webinars were created to be engaging, to captivate, to compel, and to convert. And the best versions are really like a collection of like-minded people in a room on a topic they're all interested in. Like, how could that not be engaging? Well, for me, a lot of that depends on the presenter. So let's take a look at how webinars can be more engaging. Because I'm going to suggest you know exactly what you don't want to be. You don't want to be the boring lecturer version of a webinar presenter, monotone, sending everyone to sleep. You don't want to be the boss where the presenter's the expert and everybody better listen up and you better turn off your distractions and you better get your pen and paper ready. You don't want to be the crammer where you can barely keep up because they're talking a million miles an hour and there's 600 slides and it's just overwhelm, more. Or maybe for you, you don't want to be the presenter who reads every comment, and trying to follow the helpful content is like sticking a shredded piece of paper back together. So by the end of this video, incorporating the 3 crucial elements we'll cover, you're going to know exactly how to create a captivating webinar. Because like the most engaging webinar is the one where the presenter gets to shine, the audience and the presenter are connected, the examples are relevant, and everyone is invited to participate. We're going to cover those today. But the least engaging webinar, what's that like? Well, that's the one where the presenter feels they have to be something that they aren't, where they have to follow a prescribed formula in order to achieve a particular outcome, like a step-by-step fill in the blank version of a webinar. Insert a joke here, insert a question there, insert reading audience comments, insert a truth bomb. That isn't a great webinar because it's not natural and it's not got that flow. So let's outline the crucial elements that define a great webinar. First up is you embracing your style. A webinar really is an opportunity for your audience to move closer to you, to deepen their level of know, like, and trust. So you want to present you want to present yourself in a way that's natural and authentic. And it's the same with videos, pre-recorded or live. A video edited to within an inch of its life with no natural pauses, no corrections of words, no fillers like ums and ahs. It's not how you are in real life. It's not the real you. And that really does come across. So we need to harness what is the real you. And I say when we come to what are we like as a presenter, there's generally 5 different styles: educators, influence engagers, rebels, and entertainers. So educators, they're the people who value knowledge, information, and they love sharing that. And their ideas really are around what have you learned, knowledge, information, strategies, and concepts. Influencers, they're on the storytelling side. They inspire others because if you can do it, then other people can too. So your ideas are around stories, what you've achieved, and how you've overcome challenges. Engagers, well, they're more about community and connection. Their webinars are the ones where most of the comments get read, audience participation and engagement is mandatory. When it comes to rebels, they love the unconventional, be memorable and unique. And it really is that focus on how things can be done differently and how they can align to you. And then finally, we have the entertainers who value humor, fun, and lightheartedness. And they really think about taking what can be serious or heavy and making them more approachable and just focusing on making sure everybody has a good time. Can you spot yourself in any of these? Because working with your natural style will help you to harness those natural strengths and to shine during a webinar. It will bring more you to the webinar, which is engaging both for you actually and for your audience. But what we need to make sure we do is keep those strengths in check and don't use them too much, because that's when we start to get too much of one thing and when we don't get enough of the variety. So if you're an educator, you need to bring in engagement. If you're a rebel, maybe sometimes just use what is best practice. The second crucial element is crafting compelling content. Like, engaging content is at the level that your audience can understand. And really, this starts with understanding your audience so that you can make it relevant to them. There's no point, for example, using dentistry examples if you have a room full of accountants. The examples are not going to land, the information isn't going to seem like it's relevant. Equally, in terms of level of understanding, there's no point talking about quantum physics in a room full of primary school teachers. They're not scientists. They teach science, but not at that level, so it's not necessarily going to be relevant for them. What we're really looking to do is to match our content to our audience on two levels. So first, their level of understanding, quantum physics versus primary school science, and relevant examples to them, dentistry versus accounting. So the level of understanding really starts with knowing where they are in their understanding, avoiding jargon, using plain language. And the temptation here is that you're the expert. So your depth and level of understanding of your subject area is huge. But your audience, they may just need the basic version or the toned down version. So an arborist could educate me on the 3 best growing strategy models for a tree, or they could simply tell me it's unbalanced and rebalancing would make for a strong and healthy tree. I know which one I need. If you don't speak to your audience at the level of understanding that they have, what you actually risk is them thinking your services aren't for them, they're out of reach, they're beyond their comprehension, when actually, through a journey of working with you, their level of understanding would come up to more of where you're at. Second element in this content piece is examples relevant to them. Using stories and examples they can relate to, stories and examples they can see themselves in. And the best examples actually are the ones they have already experienced, because it's really easy to insert yourself into that story. So when you start a webinar, because it's all about who's on the call, invite people to share with you that relevant piece of information. So for me, I ask what business they're in, what services they offer, what their products are. Then I can target my examples. So if I have a room full of social media coaches, I'm going to use examples around social media and coaching and getting clients. If I have a room full of nutritionists, my examples can be tailored and different. I can use different analogies. I can talk more about health things than social media things. When you do this in a really good way, not only do you make the examples relevant, but you also give them more context around how the information you're sharing, the product you're selling, can help them specifically. So with that right level of education, understanding, and examples, what your audience get is they get that you really understand them, and that positions you as the expert. So the third crucial element, engagement. Now there are engaging engagement strategies, specific strategies you can use to create engagement, asking questions and inviting answers, using polls, asking people for feedback or to share, structuring in or incorporating activities and exercises. So maybe it's not involvement in the class, but involvement in the content. Like, engagement is really that piece around how you create connection and relationships with your attendees. The other piece I love about webinars in this space is they're amazing opportunities to hear or read from your audience in a connected way. So you can ask them what they're struggling with, what are they experiencing, what are their desires. It's really a market research opportunity, and it's in a much warmer space because of that proximity to you. It's not out there on social media, in public, air in their dirty laundry. It's generally a smaller space than that proximity creates, that a little bit more open, a little bit more willing to share vulnerably. So in engagement, we don't want to go overboard with the engagement strategies. We don't want to ask a question every paragraph, every sentence, every slide, because it will become too much. You're asking a lot of your audience, and that kind of depends on the level of engagement you have with your audience. But we also want to be delivering on that value. So we balance connection and value, delivering on the promise and creating the relationships. So the key I find here is when you're planning and preparing your webinar, allow time for comments, for engagement, for conversation. Don't do a run through and go, okay, so I have the whole time filled with education, because that's not leaving time for engagement. You need to factor that in. And if you don't get as much engagement as you wanted, then you can talk more. You can expand on topics as you go and adjust that timing. So they're the three crucial elements. How do you make a webinar more engaging? Create a space where you can shine in your natural abilities and compensate for them too. Engage specifically with your audience and talk about your topic in a way that is relevant and accessible to them. Done well, webinars convert, they connect, and they create value both for you and for your audience. Done well, a webinar is an asset that you can use repeatedly to generate leads and to nurture your audience. So if you've never done a webinar before, or you've never done one that you enjoyed, because that is a common experience too, then you might be like, but what is my webinar presenter style? I have a quiz that answers that exact question. You can find out if you're an educator, an influencer, an engager, a rebel, or an entertainer, your signature webinar presenter style, how to harness that, and also how to make sure you balance that style with creating that engaging webinar. So head over, I'll drop the link in the description for the video, and I hope you find out what your webinar presenter style is.